Good afternoon, as well as welcome to all the virtual participants. My name is Olivia Vaca Oso, and I am the Digital and Financial Literacy Associate for UNCDF Pacific. And I will be taking you through this virtual information session around the RFA for enhancing resilience of the most vulnerable segment of the population, including MSMEs, towards an inclusive digital economy through digital and financial literacy and capacity building in 11 Pacific Island countries. The agenda for this afternoon session begins with introductions. So just briefly explaining about UNCDF. Then I will provide an overview of UNCDF, followed by an overview of the RFA itself. Then what are the selection process? I will also cover the identified criteria, and finally reaching Q&A that will be facilitated by myself and my colleague Fakhrul Islam. So UNCDF is present across various parts of the world, one of which is the Pacific region, where it has the vision of promoting digital economies that leave no one behind. So offering that last mile modules that unlock resources to help reduce poverty and also support local economic development. Now, with this vision in mind, UNCDF has a goal of equipping millions of people to use innovative digital services in their daily lives that will empower them and contribute to achieving the SDGs. As you can see from this slide, UNCDF is present in developing countries, and UNCDF works closely with various development and private sector partners, as well as with other UN agencies to ensure we reach that last mile audience. In the Pacific region, UNCDF is present through the Pacific Digital Economy Program, which we know as PDAP. PDAP, of course, like UNCDF, focuses on enhancing people's access to basic services through various digital devices and channels, all of which comes back to the contribution of achieving the various sustainable development goals. Now, the way that PDAP plans on achieving this is through a market development approach that seeks to, firstly, leverage the roles of behaviors of current players in the marketplace, support them to continue doing what they do better or change their behavior. Secondly, is strengthen the systems and relationships among the various market and sector actors. And thirdly, work with current players to de-risk new business models to make digital solutions more inclusive for the focus segments and reduce that digital divide. Now, these 3 points are very vast and it requires a lot of work. And so in order to best support the market and move towards inclusive change, PDAP has 4 main work streams. The first one is enabling policy. My apologies. So the work streams that you see on the slide will start from the bottom and work our way to the top. So the first work stream is enabling policy and regulatory environment. So this work stream focuses on addressing regulatory and policy gaps. Then we have open digital payment ecosystem, where the objective is to build an optimal ecosystem that enables digital financial services to reach the last mile and deliver valuable and relevant services. The third work stream is inclusive innovation, where the focus is on accelerating innovation in digital financial services with new or improved solutions that have an impact on the daily lives of low and moderate income people in the Pacific. And then finally, we have the fourth work stream, which is empowered customers. And this work stream focuses on the awareness and capacity building of end users and even service providers So raising that awareness and capacity building around the use of financial services or products, especially digital financial services and products as well. For this particular RFA, the main areas of focus are digital and financial literacy, as well as capacity building business skills. So the work we expect to produce out of this will fall under specifically workstream 4, which is empowered customers. Now, when dealing with digital economies, especially young digital economies like in the Pacific region, it requires a digitally and financially enabled workforce and also a digitally and financially literate end users. Now, with the growth of new technologies, there will always be a need for continuous learning and equipping individuals with the essential skills needed to freely and fully participate in a digital economy. So with that being said, I will now dive into the RFA itself. I can see that one of the participants has the hand up, but please note, we will take questions at the end of the presentation. So we know that in the Pacific region, our levels of digital and financial literacy are between low to moderate. And as I mentioned earlier, with the increase in digital financial services within the region, it has become important for us to ensure we have Pacific Islanders that have the knowledge and skills to make sound financial and digital decisions, as well as to have that essential skill to maneuver through their personal and professional life. And by focusing on enhancing digital and financial literacy in the region, we can work together to have and create that healthy economic growth and development in this digital era. Hence why the goal of this RFA is to empower the most vulnerable population, including MSMEs across 11 Pacific Island countries. It aims to develop tools fostering digital and financial literacy, along with business capacity building skills that will enable these segments to adopt new digital and financial services, leveraging them for improved enterprise performance. So this RFA invites applicants from registered entities that can offer innovative and scalable initiatives addressing either one or both intervention areas. And so in the next slide, I will highlight the first intervention area. So this area of intervention is focused around the increased access to digital and financial literacy skills training modules through workshops and awareness sessions for vulnerable population segments, which are women, youth, smallholder farmers, retail merchants, migrant workers, and persons with disabilities. If you or an entity or organization that you know is already working within the digital and financial literacy space, this area of intervention is best suited for you, as it focuses on increasing access to digital and financial literacy training, workshops, or awareness sessions. This is an opportunity where you can develop or expand digital and financial literacy skills modules, whether through workshops, training, or awareness sessions that either happen in person, virtually, or even both. So taking on a hybrid modality, and all of this will depend on the relevance in terms of the kind of members that you may have, or the communities that you are trying to reach. Whichever channel is best, we encourage that you highlight that in detail when submitting your proposals for this RFA. So the main objective we would like to achieve out of this first area of intervention is to enhance resilience through learning opportunities for the mentioned vulnerable segments that we have highlighted in this slide. And so basically enhancing learning opportunities for these segments, whether it is in the formal or informal sector. The second area of intervention is increased access to digital business skills and financial management skills for digital transformations for MSMEs. MSMEs play its own crucial role in the development of our respective economies, and so there also needs to be a focus on upskilling and equipping MSMEs with the right tools. And again, so if you are an entity or organization that works closely with MSMEs, or if you are collaborating with an entity that has that close proximity to MSMEs, then this is the perfect area of intervention for you, especially if you provide or have the resources and capacity to provide relevant training solutions that are focused on digital business management skills and digital transformation for MSMEs, that focuses on improving their capacities to effectively participate in digital marketplaces and utilize various digital financial services. In addition to providing relevant trainings, you must also be able to focus on providing that ongoing support. So to have that relevant mechanism in place that provides continuous support to MSMEs even after the training programs. And as you can see, this can either look like a mentorship, networking opportunities, and or continuous access to digital tools and resources. So the objective under this intervention is to mainly foster a high level of digital proficiency among MSMEs by, again, equipping them with the necessary skills and knowledge to effectively use digital platforms, tools, and technologies for their businesses, which enables them to grow and expand further. And so those are the two areas of intervention under this particular RFA. And I would just like to reiterate that you can either focus on one or both areas of interventions, depending on your organization's area of focus, capacity, and internal resources. So the selection process and steps for this RFA is pretty straightforward, but it also requires a lot of patience, as it can take quite a bit of time to progress through. Of course, once the RFA closes, this is just an overview of what the selection process looks like. So once the RFA closes, we start off with the eligibility screening. So just going over whether or not organizations have met that eligibility criteria that I will show you in the next couple of slides. After that, we shortlist the applicants, which then progresses to due diligence, after which we send it to the investment committee for their review and board approval. Then we move on to notifying the successful applicants out of this RFA, and finally reaching the last step, where we go through the pre-grant negotiations and finalizations of the PBAs, which is basically the financing agreement between UNCDF and the successful applicant. So the PBA is a document that will highlight specific information around costings, deliverables, key performance indicators, and so forth. So this is basically the selection process in a nutshell. So now I'll be taking you through the steps when going over the online application. So first and foremost is, of course, visiting the link. So I believe everyone that is here for this information session has access to the link that I am referring to in this slide. So of course, once you click on that link, it should take you to the UNCDF plug and play platform, which looks like the screenshot that you have on this particular slide. So once you reach this particular website, you then click on the apply button, which is on the right. And so once you click on that, it should bring you to this particular login page. If you are an organization or an entity that has already applied for a previous UNCDF RFA before, then you can use that same login credentials. But if this is your first time, then you will have to register in order to apply. So basically, just creating that account on this plug and play platform in order to access the application for this particular RFA. So once you've created your account and you've clicked on the RF and you've clicked on this specific RFA, it should take you to this particular website, or this is what the website should then look like, where you enter the plug and play investment platform. As you can see on the screen, there is the application section, and that application section is broken down into two. So the first one you will have to go through is the pre-screening questions. So even before you can go to the main application, you are required to finish the pre-screening questions before proceeding to the main application. So this is basically what it's supposed to look like. So when you do go through the pre-screening questions, it will ask you for your organization details. So basically the name, email address, and whether the organization has been legally registered for 1 year. And then there are sections within the pre-screening questions where you're required to upload the important documents. So as you can see, you are required to upload a certificate of incorporation or registration, 2 years of audited financial reports, management accounts, FSP license if applicant is an FSP, followed by partnership agreement if it's a joint application, and finally your tax clearance. So the below sentence where it states that you must fund at least 25% of total project cost, this can either be in cash or in-kind contribution from the interested applicant's end. So once you have completed the pre-screening questions, I'll just take you back to the previous slide. So once you've finished the pre-screening questions, as I mentioned before, you will then progress on to the main application. And so the main application is the part that starts to ask for even more specific details. So again, your name, surname, designation, email, phone number, your role in the organization, whether or not you're the legal representative, and of course the year and country of incorporation, followed by the address of the registered office, and then uploading documentation certifying, again, incorporation and legal status of your organization. So the pre-screening and main application details are also part of the eligibility. So this is where I discussed earlier the process that we normally follow in the RFA in order to reach notifying successful applicants. So pre-screening and main applications are part of that particular process. So organization details and value proposition, this is all included in the plug and play platform. So you will be required to fill in this particular section on the plug and play platform. So basically just giving a brief description of your organization, so highlighting your mission and your main services, Then you talk about briefly describing your current customer base. So mainly how many customers, users do you have? How would you describe your core customer base? So the kind of customers that you work with. And then finally, number of users, customers, business registered by your organization in the past 3 years. The reason why we also highlight including number of female users is because there is a gender and social inclusion perspective that is part of the eligibility criteria. Then it's followed by the number of employees in your organization. And finally, for you to briefly describe your value proposition. So as I mentioned earlier, there is
Olivia, just to interrupt you before you go further. There are 2 forms, yes? One is a technical proposal template and another one is a budget and work plan template. So these are the 2 document must. If these 2 documents are not filled in and completed, you will be ineligible. Yeah. So please mention these 2 documents. Sorry, go ahead.
So the 2 documents that Fakrul have mentioned is all, there are templates provided within the RFA link that is provided to all the participants. So when you do click on the RFA, for this particular RFA, if you scroll right to the bottom, you will see at least 4 or 5 document templates that you will need to fill out when you are doing your application for this particular RFA. So thank you, Fakrul, for highlighting that. So now we move on to the eligibility and evaluation criteria. So this RFA basically aims to support at least 5 to 8 partners across 11 Pacific Island countries. And so the 11 Pacific Island countries are Fiji, Vanuatu, Tonga, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, Kiribati, Federated States of Micronesia, Timor-Leste, Marshall Islands, and finally Cook Islands. And this RFA, we are basically inviting applicants from various sectors. So whether you're a fintech, agri-tech, business development service providers, training institutes, NGOs, consultancy firms, banks, mobile financial service providers, microfinance institutions, e-commerce service providers, and any other relevant entities who can basically come up with very innovative and sustainable solutions and appropriate digital and financial literacy and capacity building skills training. So if you are an organization that works within any of these spaces, please do feel free to apply for this RFA. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, as part of the pre-screening and even in the main application for the plug and play platform, you will have to at least have a minimum of 1 year of operation. So you can be registered anywhere globally. But if you are an applicant that is based outside the Pacific region, then we strongly encourage for you to have a local partner that can assist you when implementing your proposed projects within the mentioned 11 PICs. So you can target at least one or more of the countries that are shown on this particular slide. So as for consortiums, so applicants may apply only once under this particular RFA, so whether independently or in a consortium. But it is important to note that applications from consortiums of organizations, you have to show that the partnership was established prior to this call for application, or if it's due to this call for application, then there needs to be a letter of intent. And again, I would just like to mention all of this is shown and highlighted within the RFA itself and also within the UNCDF plug and play platform. So finally, the total investment, UNCDF, or under this RFA, the financial grant that is being offered ranges from USD 60,000 to a maximum of USD 100,000. So it all depends on the size of project and implementation that you put through in your proposal. And of course, it's important to also note that, again, 25% is required as a partner contribution. So that can either be in cash or in-kind contribution. So this is the eligibility criteria that we have showcased in the RFA itself. So we score the application according to the organization's profile and experience, then followed by the internal team structure, and then the highlighted methodology that the applicant has in their application, followed by the additionality in terms of how the grant will be used for internal capacity building and impact. And finally, the gender and social inclusion perspective that I mentioned earlier, as well as what is the sustainability plan and the results measurement that you have in place. So this evaluation criteria is scored out of 100. And if you look to the right of the table, each category has its own score that then adds up to 100. So if you look at the sentence right at the bottom, we will only proceed applications that score at least 70 out of 100. They will proceed further. They will proceed forward to the shortlisting. So this is the timeline that we have in place. As you all know, the RFA opened on the 11th of August, and it's expected to close on the 11th of September, where we will then start the process of selecting successful applicants. And then hopefully by the 20th of October, we would have notified the successful applicants out of this RFA. So this is just some of the frequently asked questions that we've noted for various RFAs and even for this one. So as you can see in the first one, is there a format to be followed when submitting the application? So this is the format that Fakrul and I mentioned earlier in terms of when you do go to the RFA, these are the documents that are available. These are the templates that UNCDF has provided within the RFA website that you must follow when submitting your application for this particular RFA. So the technical proposal, budget and work plan, and the CV statement form, all of the templates are available in the RFA. Can I submit multiple applications? Unfortunately, no. Applicants may apply only once under the RFA, so whether that's independently or in a consortium. Can I modify my application? When you go through the UNCDF plug and play platform, you will, as you progress through the various processes of this plug and play, there will be a button where you can either save or submit. So as you progress through, we would like to just let you know that you must click on save as you go. The moment you click on submit and you haven't completed your RFA, your application, then unfortunately you have submitted an incomplete application. So you must always be careful when you progress through the plug and play platform just ensure that you are clicking on save and not submit. You only submit once you have reached the end of the application process and you're absolutely sure you've uploaded all the relevant documents, you filled in all the necessary slots with all the relevant information, then and only then must you submit. So when is the application due? As I've mentioned in the previous slide, the application is due on the 11th of September 2023. So that is basically the RFA. I've just provided you with the key insights of what we expect out of this RFA, and just to let you know in terms of what is also expected from you as applicants. And so now we reach the question and answer part of this particular information session, where I believe Fakrul will also be stepping in to answer any of the questions that you may have. But also please note that this again is just to give you that insight of what the RFA looks like. If you want a more specific and detailed outline of the RFA, we encourage you to visit the link and read all the necessary documents attached for this particular RFA. So now we can take Q&A. Rowena. Rowena, I can send you the link for this particular RFA. So I believe Vema will have access to all the online participants. So just for good measure, we will send out the link for RFA once again. Jeff Liu asked if all the digital and financial literacy survey results are available. So the digital and financial literacy survey results have not been published yet. The only one that we have published is for Fiji. That we are working towards having the 7 remaining countries that participated in the 6 remaining countries that participated in the digital and financial literacy survey to have their reports out by end of September. So once the reports are published, you will have access to all the digital and financial literacy survey results for the 7 participating Pacific Island countries. Rajneesh Lata asked if we could share this slide. Absolutely. We will share the link and the slides when after this information session. Where Jeff asked, when can the PBA be expected to be formalized? Jeff, so we are hoping to have the PBAs formalized hopefully by October. If that's the correct time frame, Fakrul? So another attendee has asked, can a consulting firm bid as a lead or partner with eligible?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oliver, I just on mute. So the October, there in the timeline we said that it is likely that end of October, because after the deadline, what is the deadline? It is September 11, yes?
11th September, yeah.
Yes, 11. So we need minimum 1.5 months to do the eligibility checking, to do the evaluation and doing the shortlisting. So it takes minimum a month. And then after the shortlisting, we have to do further those organizations who are shortlisted. We will do further due diligence with them. And that also require them, those who are shortlisted, to prepare a full business plan, because in the RFA, you only submit a brief of your project, but those who are shortlisted will be shortlisted. They will need to prepare the full business plan, because that business plan needs to be vetted by the investment committee. So it would require another minimum 1.5 months. So October, so I think early November, it's likely that we'll be able to complete, or second week of November, we'll be able to complete the winners announcement and the PBA signing.
Yeah,
so that's
okay.
That.
Thank you, Fakrul. So another attendee has asked, can a consulting firm bid as a lead or partner with eligible firms? I believe that falls under the consortium conversation.
Yeah. So one thing I'd like to add, in the evaluation criteria, you will see, can you open the slide, the evaluation criteria slide? There is a question. Can you? Yeah, okay. So yes, there is a, okay, there's under the additionality. Okay? So there's a question probably you need to address in the proposal, the plan for internal capacity, how the grant support will improve the capacity of the recipient. Those who will be shortlisted and will be the winner, we want to see how this grant is really helping your institution to grow in terms of your revenue growth, continuation of the services and product you're offering to the vulnerable population of the country, like as the target beneficiaries are the migrant, the women, youth, MSMEs. So how the services you're offering, it's going to benefit them as well as help you, your institution, to grow and be sustainable and improve your capacity. So these are the things are important for us. That means what marginal things you are doing, what additional thing you are doing with the project, that's really helping you as well as the beneficiary to improve their digital literacy and financial literacy. Hope that answer your question. Yeah, over to you, Oliver.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Yep. So there is a question of, can I apply as an independent consultant?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, Olivia, you go.
And unfortunately, Fakrul's already answered, so you cannot apply as an independent consultant. I believe you have to be an institution, as mentioned earlier, in terms of the target applicants we are trying to get in the previous slides. So Pervez is asking if he can get the recording. Absolutely. We will package everything together and have that sent to all the participants. Hi Fakrul, there's an answer by Tabo Tabo, if they can apply as a government agency.
Yes, of course, the government institution are also eligible to apply, provided that they need to have the proposal really addresses all the the evaluation criteria, as for the evaluation criteria, and they are targeting the vulnerable population of the country, women, youth, all the segment of the beneficiaries, and what type of training or capacity building module and the service they will be providing. Or whether they will be developing any digital module, because or digital learning app or no. I mean, so what is the channel they're going to use? Are they going to use physical in person, or they are going to do virtual? Because nowadays there are a lot of literacy apps are being built. So it will depend on the proposal. Yeah, but definitely the government institutions are eligible to apply.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Fakrul. So there's another question from Nadia. To clarify, 25% is contributed by the successful applicant on top of the original UNCDF funding.
this is how you need to look at, because we want to see what is the total project cost. It's not. So first we need to see what is the total project cost, and that under the project cost, what are the element of this project cost, okay? And how much money you're asking from UNCDF to contribute, and how much you are contributing for the project to implement. Yeah. It's not that we'll be giving 100K. No, so we want to see how you demonstrate the record. Your cost element, your budget, activity. So it will be done.
Yeah. So there's Fakrul, there's another interesting question from Rizvi. Is the grant for deployment across multiple markets in the 11 PICs, or each location would have a separate funding?
No. It will depend on the proposal. How many are they going to target one country? It's fine. If they want to target multiple countries, so it will consider one proposal. So under one proposal, you can, multiple country can be covered for implementation.
And there's a question from Votis Pasca. Are participants or applicants able to submit for more than one of the Pacific Island countries? So I believe Fakrul has answered that in previous question that was asked. So yes, you can apply for more than one of the Pacific Island countries. Again, it comes back to, it depends on the type of proposal that you submit. Okay. So there's a question from Matai. Can communities apply for this assistance? With the current practice of financial literacy we're doing, is this sufficient enough? Is this sufficient enough to apply? And what is the definition of MSME that is registered under government, or can it apply to other small and other community or spiritual faith communities of fundraising?
So if I understand the question, I should, Olivia already mentioned that the applicant must be an institution, organization who is registered, who has incorporated within the country or any other country, and that institution must be in operation for minimum 1 year or more. They must have the audited statement, or if they do not have the audited statement for last 1 year, they should have the management account, unaudited management account. So this is the minimum eligibility criteria. So there's no community will be.
Thank you, Fakrul. Matai, I hope that answers your question. So there's a question from John Capel, again about the 25% contribution. Again, I believe Fakrul has answered that question as it was asked earlier. So the 25% minimum contribution, it depends on what the total project cost is. So the total project cost will then, the 25% will come out of that total project cost. So Jeff Liu is asking, if a firm is already receiving funding from another UNCDF RFA, is the firm eligible to apply to this RFA, not targeting the same country?
Yes, of course, because this is a different RFA. It has different objective. It has different intervention. Yes, definitely, yes.
And there's another question from one of the participants. If a startup is yet to get 1 year, does partnership with the government make it eligible? So that would, I believe, Fakrul, for that particular question, as if they are the lead applicant, and they are younger than a year, would that affect their application, even though they are in a consortium with the government?
Who is applying? Is the government applying? So if they are applying as a lead agency, they will not be eligible. Definitely not. If the government institution is applying as a lead applicant, yes, the government institution will be eligible.
Okay, so just to clarify, if the government is the lead applicant, then they should be okay, right? But if they are the lead applicant, then they will not qualify because they're younger than 1 year. So can universities apply, Rajneesh? Yes, they can. I believe we highlighted that in part of the target applicants in one of the earlier slides. Sorry, Fakrul, there's another question here. If selection of applicants is 20th October, or if we're working towards 20th October, when do projects commence given due diligence requirements?
So can you go to the timeline? Then I can, because slide. So what is in the timeline?
So the timeline is pretty broad in terms of, wait, sorry, give me a second. Screening. So this is the timeline, selection of successful applicants. Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier also, because the 11th of September is the last day of application. And so onward this date, so we will do the eligibility checking. After the eligibility checking, those who are eligible, we have to do an evaluation of the eligible applicants. And from that eligible applicant list, we will make a short list of who are the best proposal, which are the best proposal, and the best proposal will enter into, we call a project description phase plus due diligence. So it is likely, as I mentioned, that we will need minimum a month with the applicants, those who are entering into this project description phase and the due diligence phase. So we will require the whole October. And this document will be presented before the investment committee, and they will make the final selection. So, and after the final selection, we will be notifying the successful applicants, and we will also make a public announcement of the winners, and a PBA, which is the performance-based agreement, will be signing likely first week or second week of October. Then you can definitely start the commencement of the project from the third now. Yeah, so November month. Yeah, that's the month which we are aiming for. But it will all depend on those applicants who are entering the project description phase and the due diligence phase, because we will work together during this phase, which we need to present before the investment committee for the final selection.
Okay, thank you, Fakrul. So there is another question. Will UNCDF provide translation support, or would successful entities be expected to provide full translations of all deliverables?
Olivia, I could not understand the question.
So I'll just repeat the question. So they're asking if UNCDF will provide translation support. I believe if they will be implementing in the certain 11 Pacific Island countries, are we the ones that will provide that particular translation to those countries in terms of translating to their local language? Or is the successful applicant expected
Oh,
to
now I'm saying
provide
it is
the
part of
translation?
the project proposal and how you're going to do that. Certainly, it will depend on the implementation plan. If they need to make the translation of the module, or they need to develop the module, or they have a module that needs translation, this is part of the project implementation. Okay? Of course, that will depend on, yeah, that is part of the overall total project cost, yes.
And then another question is, what is the desired timeline for the completion and implementation of all deliverables?
So, Oliver, can you share with them what is the timeline we have mentioned? Is it last day is June or March 2025 or 2024? Can you please look at it?
I believe it's June 2025. So there is a link that our communications colleague Bema has shared in the chat that will take you directly to the RFA. So the RFA itself will state that the timeline we've highlighted where we expect all the projects to achieve their deliverables is 2025, so mid 2025. So I think we'll take on the last question, as I believe the information session is only for 1 hour. So let me just check. Are you able to provide more information on the scope for a larger grant for ongoing projects? Example, would this be relevant for ongoing initiatives that can cover more countries and be focused on more target groups? Fakrul, this was a question submitted via Zoom registration.
Can you please repeat the question?
Sorry, so the question is, are you able to provide more information on the scope for a larger grant for ongoing projects? Example, would this be relevant for ongoing initiatives that can cover more countries and be focused on more target groups?
What does it mean by ongoing initiative? So that requires further clarification.
Okay.
So then we'll be able to.
Oops, sorry. So I believe those that have submitted their questions online, you can submit further questions through the emails that are provided within the RFA document. And once, especially if we fail to answer your questions during this information session, please feel free to submit further questions via the RFA link in your chat box. But I believe that basically brings us to the end of this information session. Fakrul, would you like to say a few words?
No, thank you so much for participating in this session, and we wish you good luck. And as Olivia mentioned, that we're open to receive any further question through the email, which is mentioned in our RFA document at the last page of the RFA document. You can send question. We will try to answer as soon as possible. Yes, and wish you good luck.
Thank you so much, Fakrul. Again, participants, we will be sending out a package which will have this presentation available, as well as the important links that you can refer to for further information. Again, I'd like to Thank you for taking the time out to attend this information session, and we hope it provided you with the essential details that you need to progress with this RFA. So Vinaka Vakalevu, and have a good afternoon.